The final lesson. Master. Sergeant Elena Vasquez lay prone on the mountainside, her rifle nestled against her shoulder as she watched the alien landing craft approach through her scope. 3 days had passed since the initial invasion, and the aliens were finally learning. Instead of spreading their forces across multiple cities, they were consolidating into heavily defended positions and moving only in large groups. It wouldn't save them. Elena had been tracking this particular group for 18 hours, studying their movement patterns, identifying their leaders, and selecting her targets. The aliens thought they were being clever by varying their routes and using their aircraft for rapid deployment. What they didn't realize was that Elena had been hunting in these mountains since she was 8 years old, when her grandfather first taught her to shoot. The landing craft touched down in a clearing 2 kilometers away, and Elena adjusted her scope's magnification to get a better look. 40 aliens disembarked, heavily armed and armored, moving with the paranoid caution of soldiers who had learned to fear an enemy they couldn't see. Through her earpiece, Elena heard the calm voice of Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen coordinating the operation from a hidden command post. Ghost 7, confirm visual on the target package. Confirmed, Control. Count 40 hostiles, standard patrol configuration. I can see 3 officers and what appears to be some kind of technical specialist. The specialist is carrying equipment I haven't seen before. Copy that. Intelligence suggests they're deploying new sensor packages designed to detect chemical propellant signatures. Take out the specialist first, then the officers. Elena smiled grimly. The aliens were adapting, which showed intelligence. Unfortunately for them, humans had been adapting to new threats for thousands of years. Every countermeasure led to a countermeasure. Control, be advised I'm going to use the new ammunition for this engagement. Range is extreme, and I want to test effectiveness against their latest armor upgrades. Authorized, Ghost 7. Happy hunting. Elena reached into her pack and retrieved a single cartridge that looked identical to her standard rounds, but contained the latest advancement in human military technology, the tungsten core. Saboted penetrator had been designed specifically to defeat alien armor systems. It was still just a piece of metal propelled by chemical energy, but it was a very precisely engineered piece of metal. The alien specialist was setting up what looked like a sensor array, working with the methodical precision of someone who had done this many times before. Elena studied the target through her scope, noting the way his armor was configured, the position of his shield generator, the small gaps where different components connected. Distance, 2,100 meters. Wind, negligible. Temperature differential, minimal. Elena had made more difficult shots while hunting elk in worse conditions. She controlled her breathing, felt her heart rate settle into the steady rhythm that preceded a perfect shot. The alien specialist paused in his work, turning slightly to respond to something one of the officers was saying. The movement exposed the exact target Elena had been waiting for. The rifle's report echoed across the mountain valley like thunder. At that distance, the bullet took nearly 3 seconds to reach its target, traveling at over twice the speed of sound. The tungsten penetrator punched through the alien's shields, armor, and body with such force that the creature was dead before the sound of the gunshot reached his position. The alien patrol exploded into activity, but their response was becoming predictable. They would form a defensive perimeter, activate their most powerful sensors, and attempt to triangulate the shooter's position. It was textbook military doctrine, and Elena had seen them do it dozens of times over the past 3 days. While they were busy scanning for threats, Elena was already moving to her secondary position, 300 meters away with a completely different angle of attack. By the time the aliens organized their search pattern, she was settled behind cover again, selecting her second target. The senior officer was shouting orders, his violet eyes glowing with frustration as his troops failed to locate the source of the attack. Elena could see the stress in his body language, the way he kept glancing at the surrounding mountains, knowing that death could come from any direction at any moment. The second shot took him in the head, the tungsten penetrator turning his advanced helmet into scrap metal. The remaining aliens began firing wildly at the mountainsides, their energy weapons lighting up the afternoon sky with bursts of superheated plasma. It was an impressive display of firepower, but they were shooting at empty rocks. Elena had already moved to her third position. Aboard the Dominion's Edge, Admiral Zethkar watched the tactical display with growing horror. Red markers indicated the locations of fallen coalition soldiers, and they now covered significant portions of Earth's surface. The humans weren't just killing his ground forces, they were doing it with surgical precision, targeting officers and specialists while leaving regular soldiers alive to spread fear and uncertainty. "Casualties report," he demanded, though he dreaded the answer. Commander Wilex consulted her tablet, her mandibles clicking nervously. "Sir, total losses now stand at 347 soldiers. Wounded in action, 612. Most of the wounded are suffering from what their medics call psychological trauma. They're too frightened to function effectively in combat." 347 dead? Zethkar's voice was barely above a whisper. "From projectile weapons?" "Yes, sir. The humans appear to have unlimited ammunition and an endless supply of marksmen. Every time our forces attempt to operate outside of heavily fortified positions, they take casualties. Our soldiers are requesting permission to withdraw to the landing sites." Zethkar stared at the display, trying to process what was happening. The coalition had faced some tough opponents over the years, but nothing like this. Other species fought with honor, using recognizable tactics and accepted rules of engagement. They used energy shields and plasma weapons, fought pitched battles over strategic objectives, and eventually surrendered when their military capacity was destroyed. Humans fought like demons. They used weapons that were invisible to sensors, struck from impossible distances, and disappeared before retaliation was possible. They didn't try to hold ground or defend positions. They simply killed coalition soldiers whenever and wherever they found them. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving another transmission from General Matthews." "Put it through," Zethkar said wearily. Matthews appeared on screen, and Zethkar was shocked once again by the human's demeanor. If anything, Matthews looked more confident than before, almost cheerful. "Admiral," Matthews said pleasantly, "I trust your forces are finding our hospitality educational." "What do you want?" Zethkar snarled. "Actually, I wanted to thank you. Your invasion has provided our military with an excellent training exercise. Our marksmen are getting some wonderful practice against moving targets, and our tactics instructors are gathering valuable data on alien combat doctrine." Training exercise. Commander Wilex stepped into view, her multiple eyes blazing with anger. "You're treating this like a game?" "Commander, warfare is always a game of sorts. The only question is whether you're the player or the prey. Your forces have been very cooperative prey." Zethkar slammed his fist on the command console. "Enough games! What will it take to end this?" Matthews's expression became serious. "Simple, Admiral. Leave our planet. Take your fleet, your soldiers, and your arrogant assumptions about primitive species, and go home." "Impossible. The Coalition does not retreat from primitive worlds." "Then you'll continue losing soldiers," Matthews replied calmly. "Admiral, let me explain something about human military doctrine. We don't fight fair. We don't follow your rules of engagement. We use every advantage we can find, and we never stop adapting to new threats." The general gestured off-screen, and the camera angle widened to show a detailed map of Earth covered in tactical markers. "Your forces are now operating under siege conditions in 12 locations across our planet. Every time they venture outside their perimeters, they take casualties. Every supply run costs you soldiers. Every reconnaissance mission reduces your effective strength." Matthews pointed to various locations on the map. "Here, your forces in the European sector lost an entire patrol to what you would call primitive anti-material rifles. Here, in the Asian theater, Special operations teams eliminated your communications specialists using suppressed firearms your sensors can't detect. And here, in the Americas, mountain warfare specialists are picking off your troops one by one using hunting rifles and patience. This is impossible, Ilix protested. Kinetic weapons cannot be this effective against modern military forces. Commander, you're thinking like someone who's never faced a dedicated sniper campaign. Your species developed energy weapons and force fields, which are excellent for fighting other species with energy weapons and force fields. But humans never stopped perfecting the art of putting a bullet exactly where it needs to go. Matthews walked closer to the camera. Let me give you some statistics, Admiral. Earth has approximately 500 million civilian firearms in private hands. We have 12 million military veterans trained in precision shooting. We have 3 million active hunters who regularly make shots at distances your species considers impossible. We have 50,000 competitive marksmen who can hit targets the size of a playing card at ranges over 1,000 meters. Zethkar felt a chill run down his spine as the implications became clear. And Admiral, Matthews continued, that's just the humans who are really good at shooting. We haven't even mentioned the Special Operations Forces, the designated marksmen, or the military snipers who are trained to eliminate targets at extreme range using equipment your sensors can't track. What are you saying? I'm saying that every one of those people is now hunting your soldiers. Some are using military rifles with advanced optics and specialized ammunition. Others are using hunting rifles that have been modified for even longer range shooting. A few are using competition firearms so accurate they can put bullets through the same hole at distances that would make your engineers weep. Matthews paused, letting the words sink in. But here's the thing that really should terrify you, Admiral. We're just getting started. Your invasion began 3 days ago, and most of our people are still moving into position. The casualties you've suffered so far, that's from maybe 10% of our actual shooting capability. On the bridge of the Dominion's edge, several officers exchanged nervous glances. The idea that the humans had been holding back was almost too terrible to consider. You're bluffing, Zethkar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Tell me, Admiral, how many of your officers have been eliminated in the past 24 hours? Zethkar looked at Commander Wheelix, who consulted her tablet with shaking hands. Sir, we've lost 43 officers of various ranks. The humans seem to be specifically targeting command personnel. 43 officers, Matthews repeated. Killed by individual marksmen using weapons your technology can't detect or prevent. Now imagine what happens when the rest of our shooters finish getting into position. The human general walked over to a window, gesturing toward the city below. Every building out there is a potential sniper's nest. Every piece of high ground is an observation post. Every shadow could conceal a shooter with the patience to wait days for the perfect shot. Matthews turned back to face the camera. Admiral, your soldiers are trapped on a planet with 100 million humans who know how to shoot, and every single one of them is now motivated to kill your people. This isn't a military engagement anymore. It's a hunting preserve, and your forces are the game animals. But this is impossible, Ilix stammered. Primitive kinetic weapons cannot defeat a modern military force. Our textbooks, our tactical doctrine, everything we know about warfare says this cannot happen. Matthews smiled, and for the first time, Zethkar realized there was something genuinely frightening about that human expression. Commander, your textbooks were written by species who abandoned projectile weapons when they developed energy technology. You forgot that sometimes the old ways are still the best ways. Sometimes a simple piece of metal, precisely placed, is more effective than all the advanced technology in the galaxy. Sir, the tactical officer called out urgently, long-range sensors are detecting movement in Earth's ocean regions. It appears to be some kind of watercraft, but the energy signatures are unusual. Matthews heard the report through the communication link and grinned. Ah, you found our naval forces. Admiral, Let me introduce you to another concept your species probably isn't familiar with: submarine warfare. Submarine? Underwater vessels, Admiral. Completely invisible to your orbital sensors, capable of launching attacks against surface targets without warning. We have nuclear-powered submarines that can remain submerged for months, armed with weapons that can sink your landing craft before they even know they're under attack. Zethkar felt his command authority crumbling. Everything he understood about warfare, every principle that had guided coalition military doctrine for centuries, was proving useless against these humans. "What do you want?" he asked again, but this time his voice carried a note of desperation. "I told you, Admiral. Leave our planet, take your fleet, and go home. Tell the Galactic Coalition that Earth is under new management. The Coalition will never accept this defeat. Other fleets will come, larger fleets with more powerful weapons." "Let them come," Matthews replied confidently. "We'll be waiting. And, Admiral, the next time Coalition forces enter our solar system, they won't be facing a few thousand snipers scattered across one planet. They'll be facing humans who have had time to prepare, humans who have studied your technology and developed new ways to kill you." Matthews leaned closer to the camera, his expression deadly serious. "We are a species that has spent our entire history perfecting the art of war. We fought each other for thousands of years, developing new tactics, new strategies, new ways to kill our enemies. Every weapon you've ever seen is just the latest iteration of weapons we've been improving for millennia. You think your energy shields are impressive? We'll develop ammunition that can punch through them. You think your armor is invulnerable? We'll create bullets that can find every weak point. You think your sensors can track anything? We'll show you how to become completely invisible. This is your education, Admiral. This is what happens when you underestimate humans. We don't just adapt to new threats. We perfect countermeasures, then we perfect countermeasures. We never stop improving, never stop learning, and we never forget who our enemies are." General Matthews walked back to the map, pointing to various tactical displays. "Your forces are learning this lesson right now. Every patrol that ventures out, every supply run, every attempt at reconnaissance is teaching you that humans are not the primitive species you thought we were. We are apex predators who have been hunting and killing since before your civilization discovered fire. And now, Admiral, you have made us your enemies." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Dominion's edge in absolute silence. Admiral Zethkar stared at the blank screen for a long moment, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. The Coalition had suffered its first major defeat, not to an advanced alien empire, not to a species with superior technology, but to primitives using chemical-powered projectile weapons. "Sir," Commander Wheelock said quietly, "what are your orders?" Zethkar looked at the tactical display. Where red markers now showed Coalition casualties scattered across Earth's surface like drops of blood. In 3 days, the humans had effectively neutralized his invasion force using nothing but individual marksmen and precision shooting. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was brilliant. "Signal the fleet," he said finally, his voice hollow with defeat. "We're withdrawing from this system." "Sir?" "You heard me. Signal all ground forces to return to their ships. We're leaving." "But sir, the Coalition High Command will demand an explanation. How do we report that we were defeated by primitive projectile weapons?" Zethkar was quiet for a long moment, considering his response. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a note of grudging respect. "We tell them the truth, Commander. We tell them that humans are not a primitive species. They are specialists, they are hunters, and they are far more dangerous than we ever imagined." As the Coalition fleet began its withdrawal from Earth orbit, Admiral Zethkar made a personal note in his command log, a warning for any future commanders who might encounter humanity. Species classification: human. Threat level: maximum. Recommendation: avoid all contact. These beings have weaponized precision itself. They can kill from distances thought impossible, using weapons our technology cannot detect. They fight with patience, intelligence, and a level of marksmanship that borders on supernatural ability. Any future engagement with this species should be considered a potential massacre of coalition forces. They are not to be underestimated again. On Earth's surface, Master Sergeant Elena Vasquez watched the alien ships disappear into the stars and allowed herself a small smile. Her grandfather had always told her that the best hunters were patient, precise, and never revealed the full extent of their capabilities until absolutely necessary. The galaxy had just learned that humans were very, very good hunters. The second day of competition brought new challenges that pushed even the most advanced alien technology to its limits. The arena's environmental systems had been upgraded overnight, capable of simulating the most extreme conditions found anywhere in the galaxy. Marcus arrived early, carrying his rifle case and his worn notebook. He had spent the evening studying the competition rules and calculating potential adjustments for the more difficult shots they would face today. While other competitors had teams of technicians working on their weapons, Marcus had only his own knowledge and experience to rely on. The alien competitors were gathered around Quantum Eye, who was running detailed scans of Marcus's equipment with his optical sensors. The mechanical being's voice carried clearly across the preparation area as he shared his analysis. The human's weapon operates on principles that are thousands of years old by galactic standards, Quantum Eye explained to the others. The projectile is a simple metal slug powered by chemical explosives. The stabilization system uses tension cables and basic physics. There are no computer guidance systems, no energy manipulation, no quantum targeting assistance. Vexitar's scaled features showed confusion. Then how is he matching our accuracy? My plasma rifle has technology that costs more than some planetary defense systems. Singing Death from Above ruffled her feathers nervously. Perhaps there is some hidden technology we cannot detect? Some sort of primitive-appearing shell concealing advanced human systems? The discussion stopped when Supreme Arbiter Nalthek announced the day's challenges. Today's competition will test your abilities under the most extreme conditions. Targets will be placed at distances up to 50,000 meters. You will face gravitational anomalies, electromagnetic interference, and atmospheric conditions that would be lethal to most life forms. The first challenge took place in a simulated environment matching the conditions around a neutron star. Artificial gravity wells created constantly shifting gravitational fields that would bend the trajectory of any projectile. The target was a small crystal formation, 45,000 meters away, barely visible even with advanced optics. Vexitar went first, his massive frame straining against the artificial gravity. His plasma rifle's computer systems worked furiously to calculate a trajectory through the gravitational maze. The energy bolt curved and twisted as it flew, following a path that looked like abstract art as the gravitational fields pulled it in different directions. Despite the advanced calculations, the shot missed the target by several meters. The Zenthari champion roared in frustration, his claws scraping against the arena floor. This was supposed to be a warm-up round, but the gravitational interference was beyond anything his weapon's computers had been programmed to handle. Singing Death from Above attempted the shot next, her crystalline weapon bending energy around the gravitational anomalies. Her shot came closer, striking near the target's base, but still not achieving the precision required for a perfect score. Quantum Eye's dark matter rifle performed better, the exotic ammunition less affected by gravitational pull than normal matter or energy. His shot struck the target, but not at the center required for maximum points. Then Marcus stepped up to the firing line. He studied the gravitational readings displayed on the arena's monitors, but quickly turned away from them. Instead, he watched how dust particles moved through the air, how the artificial gravity affected the way his equipment hung from his body, how the pull felt against his bones and muscles. The aliens had advanced sensors that could measure gravitational fields down to the smallest decimal point. But Marcus had something they didn't understand: the ability to feel the environment with his body and instincts honed by years of shooting in Earth's varying natural conditions. He had learned to shoot in places where computer models failed, where wind patterns changed faster than sensors could track them, where the difference between a hit and a miss was measured in intuition and experience rather than calculations. Marcus settled into his shooting position, adjusting his stance to compensate for the gravitational pull he could feel in his muscles. He didn't need to understand the physics of neutron star gravity wells. He just needed to understand how they affected his shot. He aimed, breathed, and fired. His bullet curved through the gravitational maze, following a path that his instincts, rather than his intellect, had calculated. It struck the target dead center. The arena fell silent again, the same uncomfortable quiet that had followed his shots the day before. The judges verified the hit, and the score appeared on the massive display screens around the arena. Perfect accuracy. The second challenge simulated the electromagnetic storms of a pulsar system. Massive artificial lightning bolts crashed through the air while electromagnetic fields strong enough to disrupt most electronic systems swept across the firing range. The target was smaller this time and even further away. This environment should have given the human an even greater disadvantage. His competitors' weapons relied on advanced electronics that were shielded against electromagnetic interference. Marcus's rifle, however, was entirely mechanical, and electronic systems were minimal. Vexitar's plasma rifle sparked and whined as the electromagnetic fields interfered with its targeting systems. His shot went wide, the energy bolt dispersing harmlessly into the storm. Singing Death from Above's crystalline weapon performed better, but the electromagnetic interference still threw off her aim significantly. Quantum-Eye's mechanical systems were better shielded, but even his dark matter rifle struggled against the artificial storm. His shot hit the target area but missed the center by a considerable margin. Marcus approached the firing line as lightning crashed around him. The electromagnetic fields made his skin tingle, and he could smell ozone in the air. This was actually familiar territory for him. He had trained in thunderstorms before, learning to shoot when normal electronic equipment failed. His rifle's simple mechanical systems ignored the electromagnetic chaos completely. The steel wire that the aliens had mocked for being primitive and cheap now proved its value. It couldn't be disrupted by electromagnetic fields because it didn't rely on any electronic components. Marcus aimed through the storm, his simple optical scope clear while the aliens' advanced targeting systems flickered and failed around him. He fired, and once again his shot found perfect accuracy. The crowd's reaction was different now. Instead of laughter or dismissive chatter, there was growing murmur of confusion and worry. How was this primitive human matching the performance of champions who had trained for decades with technology worth more than starships? The third challenge of the day pushed the extremes even further. The arena simulated the surface of a gas giant, with wind speeds approaching 500 kilometers per hour and atmospheric pressure that would crush most life forms. Visibility was near zero through the swirling clouds of methane and ammonia. The target was the smallest yet, and at the maximum range the arena could provide, 50,000 meters through a hurricane that could tear apart most vehicles. By now, the alien champions were visibly frustrated. Their advanced technology was supposed to handle any condition, but these extreme environments were pushing their systems beyond their design parameters. Worse, they were being outperformed by a human with a weapon that looked like it belonged in a museum. Vexitar's shot was thrown off course by wind speeds his rifle's computers couldn't accurately predict. Singing Death from Above's energy manipulation abilities were overwhelmed by the chaotic atmospheric conditions. Quantum-Eye's dark matter rifle performed best among the aliens, but even it couldn't achieve perfect accuracy in the artificial hurricane. Marcus studied the storm, not with sensors or computers, but with his eyes and instincts. He had grown up hunting in Montana winters, where wind and weather could change in seconds. He had learned to read atmospheric conditions not from instruments, but from the way snow moved, the way trees bent, the way the air itself felt against his skin. The storm in the arena was more extreme than anything on Earth, but the principles were the same. Wind was wind, regardless of whether it was made of oxygen or methane. Atmospheric pressure was pressure, whether it came from Earth's atmosphere or a gas giant's crushing environment. Marcus adjusted his position, feeling the wind patterns through his body. He calculated his shot not with computers, but with instincts developed through thousands of hours of practice in conditions where technology failed and only skill mattered. His bullet flew through the artificial hurricane, fighting wind speeds that could destroy aircraft, pressure that could crush submarines, and atmospheric conditions that would kill most life forms instantly. It struck the target with perfect precision. The arena erupted, but not in cheers. The crowd was shouting in confusion and disbelief. Alien spectators were demanding explanations from officials, insisting that the human must be using some sort of hidden technology. The other competitors surrounded Marcus as he cleaned his rifle, their advanced sensors scanning every inch of his equipment. They found exactly what Quantum Eye had detected the day before: a simple mechanical weapon using principles that were ancient by galactic standards. "This is impossible!" Vexatar hissed, his reptilian eyes fixed on Marcus's rifle. "Your weapon has no guidance systems, no atmospheric compensators, no gravitational field manipulators. How are you achieving this accuracy?" Marcus looked up from cleaning his rifle, meeting the alien champion's gaze calmly. "Practice," he said simply. Singing Death from Above spread her wings in agitation. "Practice? We have trained for decades with the finest technology in the galaxy. You cannot match our abilities with practice alone." But Quantum Eye's optical sensors were studying Marcus himself now, rather than his weapon. The mechanical being's voice carried a note of something like respect when he spoke. "I believe I understand," Quantum Eye said slowly. "We have been analyzing the wrong component of this human system. The weapon is not the technology. The human is the technology." The other aliens looked confused, but Marcus just nodded. He had spent years learning to become one with his rifle, to understand wind and weather and distance not through instruments, but through instincts and experience that no computer could replicate. Tomorrow would be the final day of competition, with challenges that would determine the greatest marksman in the galaxy. But already, word was spreading beyond the arena that something unprecedented was happening on Zenthari Prime. A human with a primitive weapon was outgunning the legends of galactic marksmanship, and nobody could explain how. The final day of the Galactic Shooting Championships had drawn attention from across the known galaxy. News of the human competitor's unprecedented performance had spread through faster-than-light communication networks, bringing representatives from military organizations, weapons manufacturers, and scientific institutions to Zenthari Prime. The arena was packed beyond capacity, with beings watching from every available space. In the competitors section, Marcus Chen sat quietly, methodically checking his rifle one final time. Around him, the alien champions were surrounded by teams of technicians making last-minute adjustments to weapons worth more than most planetary budgets. Supreme Arbiter Nalthek's crystalline form reflected the arena's lights as he addressed the crowd. "Today marks the conclusion of the 847th Galactic Precision Championships. Our final challenge will test marksmanship abilities beyond anything previously attempted in galactic competition." The Arbiter gestured to the arena's far end, where a massive holographic display showed the day's target setup. The final targets will be placed at distances ranging from 50 to 100,000 meters. Each shot will be taken under different extreme conditions, simulating combat scenarios from across the galaxy's most hostile environments. Marcus felt his heart rate increase slightly, but his hands remained steady. 100,000 meters, nearly 100 kilometers. On Earth, the longest confirmed sniper kill was less than 4 kilometers. This was beyond anything any human had ever attempted. But as he looked at his rifle, he felt the same calm confidence that had carried him through impossible shots in Earth's military. The weapon might look primitive compared to the alien technology around him, but he knew every bolt, every spring, every tiny component with an intimacy that no advanced computer could replicate. The first target appeared at 50,000 meters, positioned in a simulated asteroid field with constantly shifting gravitational microfields and debris that would destroy most projectiles. Vexatar went first, his massive plasma rifle charging with visible energy discharges. The Zenthari champion had spent the night upgrading his weapon's targeting systems, adding computational power that could process atmospheric data faster than most Starship computers. His shot streaked through the asteroid field, the plasma bolt automatically adjusting its trajectory dozens of times as it navigated the debris. The energy blast struck a large asteroid, vaporizing several tons of rock, but missing the actual target by a significant margin. The gravitational microfields had pulled his shot off course in ways his computers hadn't predicted. Singing Death from Above took her position, her crystalline weapon now enhanced with additional focusing arrays that had been shipped overnight from her home world. Her energy beam bent and twisted through the asteroid field, following impossible curves as it avoided the debris. Her shot came closer than Vextar's, actually grazing the target's edge, but still not achieving the precision required for a perfect hit. The constantly shifting gravitational fields had made even her advanced energy manipulation abilities insufficient. Quantumized approach was different. The mechanical being had spent the night calculating gravitational patterns, attempting to predict the microfield fluctuations with mathematical precision. His dark matter rifle hummed with contained energy as he fired. The exotic ammunition ignored most of the gravitational interference. But even dark matter wasn't completely immune to the complex gravitational maze. His shot struck the target but off-center, earning points, but not the perfect accuracy the competition demanded. Then it was Marcus's turn. He studied the asteroid field, not through sensors or computer displays, but with his naked eyes. He watched how the debris moved, how the gravitational fields affected the way dust and small particles drifted through space. The aliens were trying to calculate their way through the problem, using advanced mathematics and computer models to predict gravitational effects. Marcus took a different approach. He had learned to hunt in forests where wind patterns changed unpredictably, where leaves and branches created chaotic air currents that no computer could model accurately. This was the same principle on a larger scale. Instead of trying to calculate the gravitational maze, Marcus read it instinctively, feeling the patterns in his bones the same way he had learned to sense wind currents in Earth's mountains. He aimed, not at where the target was, but at where his instincts told him it would be when his bullet arrived. He fired, and his simple metal projectile flew through the asteroid field, threading between massive chunks of rock and riding gravitational currents that his mind rather than his instruments had mapped. Perfect hit, dead center. The crowd's reaction was immediate and explosive. Beings from across the galaxy were on their feet, shouting in languages that the universal translators couldn't keep up with. In the competitors section, the alien champion stared at Marcus with expressions ranging from disbelief to something approaching fear. The second target appeared at 75,000 meters, positioned in a simulated black hole accretion disk with gravitational shear forces that could tear apart starships. The environment was so extreme that the arena's safety systems had to create force fields to protect the spectators from the artificial conditions. This time, even the advanced alien weapons struggled to function. Vextar's plasma rifle's targeting systems failed completely in the intense gravitational gradient. Singing Death from Above's energy manipulation abilities were overwhelmed by the black hole simulation. Quantumized dark matter rifle performed better, but even exotic ammunition was affected by the extreme gravitational effects. All three aliens missed their targets, their shots either torn apart by gravitational shear or pulled into trajectories that sent them spiraling into the artificial event horizon. Marcus approached the firing line as space itself seemed to twist around him. The gravitational gradient was so intense that he could feel it pulling at different parts of his body with varying force. This was beyond anything he had ever experienced on Earth, beyond anything any human had ever faced. But the principle remained the same. He had learned to shoot in conditions where normal rules didn't apply, where wind and weather created environments that demanded intuition rather than calculation. This was simply an extreme version of the same challenge. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the gravitational currents with his entire body. He could sense how the artificial black hole was warping space-time around him, how the gravitational shear would affect anything moving through it. When he opened his eyes and aimed his rifle, he wasn't calculating trajectory in the traditional sense. He was reading the gravitational environment like a hunter reading wind patterns in a forest, using instincts developed through years of shooting in impossible conditions. His bullet flew through the simulated accretion disk, following a curved path that looked impossible to normal physics. It rode gravitational currents like a surfer riding waves, threading through shear forces that should have torn it apart. Perfect accuracy. Again. The arena fell completely silent for several seconds before exploding into chaos. Alien military observers were frantically taking notes. Weapons manufacturers were demanding technical specifications, and the competition officials were running additional scans to ensure no rules had been violated. But the final target was still to come. At 100,000 meters, positioned in a simulation of the galaxy's most extreme combat environment, the surface of a neutron star with gravitational fields strong enough to flatten atomic nuclei and electromagnetic storms that could disrupt quantum mechanics itself. This was beyond the design parameters of any weapon in galactic history. The target was barely detectable even with the most advanced sensors, and the environmental conditions were so extreme that they pushed the arena's simulation systems to their absolute limits. The alien champions didn't even attempt their shots. Vexitar's plasma rifle couldn't function in the intense electromagnetic field. Singing Death from Above's energy weapon was completely overwhelmed by the neutron star's radiation. Quantumized dark matter rifle sparked and shut down as the extreme conditions overloaded even its exotic systems. For the first time in galactic championship history, the advanced alien weapons had simply failed to operate under the environmental conditions. Marcus stepped up to the firing line as the neutron star simulation raged around him. The gravitational field was so intense that light itself was being bent visibly around the target. The electromagnetic storms were strong enough that the arena's force fields were struggling to contain them. This was impossible by any standard. His rifle was a simple mechanical device that used chemical explosives to propel metal projectiles. There was no way it could achieve accuracy at this distance under these conditions. But Marcus had learned something during his years as a sniper that the aliens with their advanced technology had never needed to understand. When instruments fail, when computers can't calculate the solution, when the environment is beyond the parameters of any technological system, there is still one tool that can adapt to any condition. Human intuition. The ability to sense patterns that can't be measured, to read environments that can't be calculated, to make shots that should be impossible through instincts developed over millions of years of human evolution. Marcus aimed his rifle, feeling the neutron star's gravitational field pulling at his bones. He could sense the electromagnetic storms raging around him, could feel the way space-time itself was being warped by the extreme conditions. He wasn't calculating this shot. He was feeling it, reading the environment with senses that no alien technology could replicate. His mind, shaped by evolution and honed by years of experience, found patterns in chaos that quantum computers couldn't detect. Marcus fired his final shot. The bullet flew through conditions that should have destroyed it instantly, following a path through warped space-time that looked like it violated the laws of physics. It rode gravitational currents and electromagnetic storms like they were earth-wind patterns, threading through the impossible environment with precision that shouldn't have been possible. The bullet struck the target with perfect accuracy, completing a shot that no being in galactic history had ever achieved. The arena erupted in chaos that lasted for several minutes. When order was finally restored, Supreme Arbiter Nalthek announced the final results with a voice that carried obvious disbelief. The winner of the 847th Galactic Precision Championships, with perfect accuracy on every target including conditions never before conquered in competition, Marcus Chen of Earth. As Marcus stood on the winner's podium, holding a trophy that had never been won by a non-galactic civilization, he looked out at the crowd of alien beings who had spent 3 days watching their most advanced technology be outperformed by a simple rifle and human intuition. In the competitors section, Quantum Eye was running one final scan of Marcus's weapon. The mechanical being's voice carried clearly across the arena as he announced his findings to the other champions. Final analysis confirmed. Total value of human weapons stabilization wire, 0.75 standard galactic credits. Total value of human weapon system, 2,847 standard galactic credits. Performance capability, beyond measurement parameters of any known technology. The alien looked directly at Marcus as he continued. It appears we have been calculating the wrong variables. In this competition, the most advanced technology was not the weapon. It was the being using it. As Marcus cleaned his rifle one final time, he smiled at the thought of what this victory would mean for humanity's place in the galaxy. Earth's military would soon find itself very popular with alien governments wanting to understand how primitive human technology had outperformed the galaxy's finest weapons. But Marcus knew the truth, that the aliens were only beginning to understand. The real weapon hadn't been his rifle at all. It had been the distinctly human ability to adapt, to read impossible conditions, and to find solutions that existed beyond the reach of any computer or sensor. Sometimes the most advanced technology was the one that had been developing for millions of years, the human mind.